Okay, so this is my MGB GT. I'm in the final stages of finishing it off. And you're interested in core plugs, or freeze plugs as some people call them. And so am I. The reason I'm interested in them is because recently I came to time the engine with a strobe, and in the process of standing here, as the engine got up to temperature, all hell broke loose. Steam, coolant, everywhere. What the hell's going on here? Top hose, bottom hose? No. It was behind the alternator, not easy to see, but this core plug had blown out. What do you do about that? I'm not putting the same one back in. Better get another one. Haven't done that yet. Went back to my computer, started looking on the internet to see what was out there. But my thought was, if you're going to be going out on a run, the last thing you want is a core plug to go. And given that these all went in the same way, with the same process, then any one of the others could come out. So what do? So this is the one that came out. Obviously there's a bolt in it now. I've been experimenting with it, trying to come up with something that would allow me to be inserted if one of the plugs blew out by sticking that in sideways like that. Then that goes in, and then you adjust the nut on this to lock that down, and then I'm back in business. At least that would get me home anyway. But then I started looking on the internet, and I found these puppies made by Borman. That's the part number, and that's what they look like. This is 1 1/8, expanding to 1 1/4, I think it is. And I thought, after seeing those, surely that's something I could put in the hole and expand up, and that would get me out of trouble as well. So I bought them. They come in 5 in a box. And if I take one over, it's a good fit. It's a good fit. There's very little tolerance. It goes in that far. It doesn't actually go in all the way because it hits the inner casting. So you get to that point, you tighten that up, and it swells into the inner web. Not this first shoulder here, but this one. And that should get me out of trouble. The only thing is, how do you hold on to it when it's in there to tighten that up? So what I then did, if I can find it, there it is to drill a couple of holes, and then with a pair of offset needle nose pliers, simply hold on to it, which will allow me to tighten that nut. This is what it looks like when you take it apart. It's basically a bolt with an O-ring. The inside is squared up on one end, so that goes on there. And there's just a flat washer on the other end and a nut. And obviously it compresses down to the point where it's tight. So that's what I'm going to use, because ordinarily that's covered up by the alternator, and if that blows, then I can't get at it. So I'm going to use the Dorman plug to go in there. I'll also carry some spares and leave these other two in there. Now if they go, I've got easy accessibility to stick another plug in there. That'd get me home on either one of those. But there's another one, as I'm sure you know, at the back of the engine end plate, which is not easy to get at. I mean, there's a gap here and there's a hole at the back. So if that goes, what are you going to do? So I came up with this bit of flat bar with a 14mm nut tacked onto it, and that nut fits in the hole. This is then dropped into position. Let's see if I get this right. There. So, don't know if you can see that, but it's in there. I'll get it painted up the same colour as the engine paint, and it comes flush with the backside of the engine plate. I don't know if I can get that out now. Right. So with that in place, simply drop that bolt in, and then you've still got, because of that shoulder, you've still got access to this lock nut. You tighten down, the center of this bolt hits the core plug. That's going to hold it in position, and this nut just tightens down onto that face in order to keep the assembly in place. So that will address that core plug on the back. These will address the ones on the side. And if they do come out, I can at least relax. That's about all I can tell you. The trouble with putting the so-called Welsh plugs in, which is essentially a dome, blank, is that some of the videos say stick a bit of goop behind in the way of possibly silicone. Some people say nothing. Some people say an epoxy of some kind. You know, some people say bash the top with something flat. Some people say use a domed item to do the same thing, but essentially the idea is to spread that dome out so that it's tight within the cavity that it goes into. But you have to use your own judgment on what you think is the right thing to do. It's not an easy decision, so you never really know whether or not what you've done is there to stay. So good luck with it, and that's what I've done. If it's any help, then fine. Speak to you again.